Thanks for joining us on this new compact version of Does It Resonate With You, where we take a whole show from each week and cut it into smaller and more digestible chunks so that you can listen on the go or listen to them all in a row, whatever works for you. We really want you to find your own truth while we discover and discuss ours. And while we're at it, could we encourage you to reach down and hit that subscribe button? Thanks so much. We'll see you on the other side.
Well, hello and welcome again to Does It Resonate With You? Today I'm really excited because we're going to talk this episode about consciousness and one of the, what I would say is leading authorities on the idea, at least, of consciousness, Eckhart Tolle. We have both read some articles by him, I listened to a meditation. John and I both listened to a video, so I'm excited to talk about this concept of vertical and horizontal dimensions and why I feel it's important. And then a little bit of my sort of parallel experience. So without further ado, we're just going to go right into it because, of course, this is our new format, 20 minutes. We're going to talk about this for 20 minutes, and then we're going to move on to the next topic in the next video. And this time we're going to try really hard to finish up the topic so that each video has sort of its own,
closure.
Its own closure. So each video has its own beginning, middle, and end. How's that?
So
anyway,
unfortunately, with the topic of consciousness, that's like one of the biggest topics you could possibly wrestle with. So
sure,
we're going to just
but that's why we're going to narrow it. We've talked about consciousness quite a bit, actually.
I know.
We're going to narrow it into Eckhart Tolle and kind of, what I really want to explore this concept of vertical and horizontal dimensions and what his idea is and what is important about that. So
sure.
That was in that video that we both watched. But I know that you had a little story or two you might want to tell about Eckhart Tolle. So
yeah, well, I'm going to extol his praises here for a moment. I read The Power of Now, which is one of his major works, and that book is just, I can't say enough good about it. It was at the right time for me in my spiritual journey, and it was literally life changing. How he basically breaks apart what are we internally, what are our souls, and what is the ego mind versus the soul or the spirit or the non-being. I love the words he uses to describe this consciousness thing that we have. He pulls from Buddhism a little bit, and he says that the consciousness is our non-self. I'm like trying to figure that one out.
Well, that makes sense as it pertains to the physical self, right?
Right. Well, and also the ego, right? So the ego.
Well, that's the physical self.
Okay.
The ego is the physical
I need
self.
This. I want this. I have to do this.
That's the job of the ego.
Yeah.
Right. Is to help the physical self get what it needs.
Correct.
Right. So yeah. So I love that, and that really goes to, we hear people all the time talking about, oh, well, I can't wait. We're going to the fifth dimension and we're doing this. And I literally had somebody one time tell me, oh, well, all we have left in the third dimension is our hip and our knee or some crazy thing like that. And I was like, no. And what I appreciate most about him and the way he teaches is that he's not trying to tell you how to transcend humanity or how to not be human or transcend polarity, because we are human. That's what we're here for, right?
Yep.
What he's trying to help you do is to remember what it is like to be that non-being, right? And that's his vertical dimension, is that non-being. So I listened to a 20-minute, and his meditations are quite interesting because he just speaks and he tells you the story of where it is that he's taking you by explaining to you where he's taking you is. And so as he explained about the vertical and horizontal dimensions, it was really funny because the vertical dimension, in the way that he described it, is the non-being, the not human, right?
Right.
Like the horizontal is where the human, where the ego is, where the physical being is, and then the vertical dimension is the non-human. And that is the place where there is no thought, where the ego, where there is no thought. The mind is not sending thoughts. And it was really interesting because you know how I enjoy playing with energy.
Mm-hmm.
As I sat through this meditation and the thoughts began to sort of drift away,
Mm-hmm.
there was a couple of times where I tried to create a thought and I couldn't. And it was amazing. It was
Nice.
really amazing. So, I mean, I am not going to sit here and say that I'm advanced necessarily, but I have played in the energy quite a bit. So for me to get to that state where I can have an awareness, right, and still be in the state without thought, I don't know that everybody can do that, but it certainly was fun. Would be fun to try, no matter what. So have you ever? I know that you are an accomplished. I don't know. Is it accomplished meditator? I don't know what.
Practicing meditator. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. Are you able? It's really interesting because I mean, I can get away from human thought and meditation, but I don't necessarily get away from words because that's where I go to make connections and hear the guides and hear the whispers and hear the sparks and hear all of that, right?
Interesting. Yes. Yes.
So, but are you able to get beyond the ego in meditation when you meditate?
So what I'm able to do is go for long periods of time without a constructed thought. That is something like, I wonder if I got that project in on time, or I wonder did I leave the iron on? So, but even things like, what was that noise? So I can go long periods of time without those constructed thoughts. And so there's just empty space for a period of time, and it's really focused on breathing. Might be focused on counting from 1 to 5 over and over again.
Okay.
Some of that. Now, some of it's just the breathing, right? But if you find myself wandering, like, oh, there's a thought. All right, bring it back in. By the way, one of my instructors for meditation says, when your mind wanders, just bring it back in like a puppy.
Why don't you follow it sometime?
I can do that when I'm not meditating. Maybe I could, but point is, I'm trying to clear the space. I just want clear space.
But why? Why don't you want to go there to find things out, to see things, to do things, to be creative, to make a connection?
Activity for me. That might be. I'm gonna take a little journey now and see where this goes. I like to try and do remote visualization. So I'm out there going like, all right, show me something that I haven't seen before. Oh, that's interesting. That's a castle, right? And so if you're,
well, how does that help you?
How does the castle thing help me, or how does the clearing the mind?
Either, I guess.
Explore. I think the castle or the exploring, the remote visualization is
it's fun.
It's fun. It's also for me practicing. What can my spirit bring me that I don't consciously am going out to look for? Show me something. So,
okay. Well, that's similar to what I do. I just connect to different things.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me what you want me to do. Show me what you want me to see. Don't.
Yep. Right. That's it.
I mean, I actually more often than not meditate to work, right? Because that's the place I have the connection to the being that I am, that drives what I do.
Right.
Right. That being doesn't live in this physical body. So it's the place I go to connect with that. I think that, that makes sense. That's not for everyone.
Right.
But neither is emptying the mind. Forget that. I don't want any part of that. Like
All
that.
right.
I'm not interested in that. I don't want to fight for that. I want to I want to disconnect from my ego, and then I want you to show me things. I want you to take me places. I want you to tell me things. I want you to help me sort out the things that are keeping me from achieving what I want to achieve in this life. Like, oh, fantastic. Show me that I was a guard at Auschwitz. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the capacity to say, hold on a second. If you're going to show me that, you need to show me the whole thing. And you need to take me to the end, and you need to explain to me why I need to see this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Sure.
I am in power, right? That's, to me, the point, is being in power. So getting back to Eckhart Tolle and his idea of horizontal and vertical dimension is really nothing. Like, there really is nothing there. And that is the closest I've ever come with a guided meditation of any kind that takes me to where I believe I go when I consciously go outside the collective consciousness. Because I love it outside the collective consciousness. It's
I
really
think for me,
quiet outside there.
Yes, I think that's the goal of the clearing the mind, clearing the thoughts. What you just said, that is the goal. Getting outside the consciousness, and where it's very
No. I'm not getting outside the consciousness. I'm getting outside the collective consciousness.
Okay, all right.
That's a different thing.
Right, I misspoke. But
I'm just saying that's a different thing. I'm just saying that's a different thing. That is another place that I can't take everyone that I work with. A lot of people just, because it's too far outside the comfort zone, outside the collective consciousness. It's like, the Borg,
yes.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they flip their wigs when they get outside the collective, right? Because it's all quiet, right? So whether you hear the collective consciousness or you sense the collective consciousness, you are aware that you're within a collective, right? We are all, after all, one, although I also believe we're individuals. So when I'm talking, and maybe someday I'll be able to there's one person that I work with, there's a couple of, that I've really taken outside the collective consciousness. Maybe we can get one of them on sometime to explain what that is like, because that would be great fun. But anyway, I mean, the truth of the matter is that whenever you go within, whenever you go inside and turn off the sirens and the bells and whistles from around you, it's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Sure, it's always a good thing. So yeah, it was a really cool place. The vertical dimension. But that's his concept of what it's like to, shed the ego, put your ego in a box. I have clients that do that, take their ego and put it in a glass cube to keep it out of the way for a while. I've known somebody that would ask her ego to take a vacation. You can just go to Hawaii for a while because I don't need you right now at this moment. So, there's all of that. So because we all know, I'm not admitting anything that nobody knows. I don't read a lot of books. I don't read a lot of spiritual books of a spiritual nature, because I rely on the connection that I have, and I believe the connection I have. And I always find it fascinating when somebody says, oh yeah, well, that was in the book by so-and-so. Well, there you go.
And Angie says, I got it direct.
I got it directly, right? Which is only because I'm willing to listen.
Sure.
I'm no different, right? I'm no different than anyone. I'm just willing to listen. So, but a lot of people
actually, that's a skill though that you've learned over time.
Yeah. But I have a certain detachment that other people don't have, right?
That's true.
I'm cut them loose, and so I do have that, which is interesting as you move around the block and really start looking after the human, the physical being, and find out that maybe, in addition to that, you got some depression going on or some things going on in your head that you didn't realize, because when you get such control over your thoughts, things can be happening in the physical, in the human, that you're not really aware of, which I find very interesting if you think about it. So, I mean, it was pointed out to me, and it was like, well, here's the list. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I don't have negative thoughts. I really don't. And then it was, the idea of challenging what your idea of a negative thought actually is.
Right.
So anyway, so what you said that you read The Power of Now and it changed your life. What do you remember? Like, tell everybody something that he said
Sure.
that was profound, or that you remember. And if you don't remember, that's okay too, but we'll come up with something else.
There's a couple things. I guess, the title of the book, The Power of Now, is basically the main concept of the book is that by staying completely present, we're right here, right now, that is the key to happiness and the key to peace. One of my favorite parts, I think he uses this illustration, is you can ask someone, you're worried about the past. Where is the past? Well, it's actually in your mind, right? The past
right.
It's actually in your mind. Oh, you're worried about the future. Where's that? That's in your mind, right? What's the only thing that's real is the present. It's the only thing that's real. And that's the power.
That's profound, right?
That's
profound.
That's Eckhart Tolle, right? That is Eckhart Tolle.
And what's interesting about that, as you say it, and this did take a lot of work, but as I sit here speaking with you, fully present in the conversation, by the way, not distracted by, let me see what's going on Facebook, or let me take a look at my phone, which has been known to happen when I'm, I don't know, listening to a workshop or something. I can feel the energy of the tax work that I have behind me. I can feel it, right? And it is because it's a responsibility that I've created for myself. So it's very present, right? And I'm very aware of it. So it is really important to be able to shut that off. Because if I kept reacting to the energy of what's going on behind me, then our conversations could never get to where they get to. They just couldn't.
It'd all be very superficial.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's there is very little that when I'm really invested in something that can distract me. I mean, there was that guy, remember the dead guy that wouldn't leave me alone? And then it turned out he was somebody I knew. Like, I kept telling him to leave and he wouldn't leave. But then I made a connection with him and sorted that all out. But for the most part, that's the only kind of energetic distraction I'll get in something like this. Like, excuse me, but we told you to say this, or hello, this is what that means, or, that kind of thing. So
we got one more thing about Eckhart Tolle that was really profound, and I just want to say it before I forget. He has a number of stories where he's kind of giving an example from his life of the power of stillness that has come over him because he stays in the now. He's got this great story about this neighbor of his who was like fighting the homeowners association, and she was going to sue them, and she was angry, and she had all these like receipts and bills and paperwork, and she came over she knocked on his door like 11 o'clock at night. She was getting all flustered, and he just sat there and listened and just smiled and listened. And after about 5 minutes, she said, "I don't need to do this, do I?" And he says, "No. Everything's going to be fine, isn't it?" "Yes."
Isn't that amazing?
It's like this aura of peace comes over them because he's so centered and grounded. That story just really, really struck me as like, wow, when you're not getting all flustered about all these things coming at you, and you can just be in the now, people feel that, and it spreads.
It does. It actually does. What's interesting, so I heard a story of someone who was traveling with a parent, and the relationship is fraught. We'll say fraught is a good word to put it. And there's always an energetic connection between us and a parent, always. There's nothing you can do about that, right? Cut the cord, it'll reestablish. I mean, it just is what it is. However, you can clear the connection, and you can cut off their connection to your vital force energy, so to speak.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Because they are.
Yeah. Right.
And it was really interesting. In the past, she has tried to put up barriers, tried to put up boundaries, and it didn't work as well as it could. But this time, because she's done a considerable amount of energy work and work on manifesting and understanding her vibration and all of that, she put up this boundary from the sort of negative that comes from the mother.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, the mother started being nice. Instead of and it was a considerable shift in the attitude of the mother. And I was like, now that right there is profound if you really think about it, right? Like, that is the energetic boundary at its very best. And so when you are trying to be in the now, that's the best place for the boundaries to come from, is energetic, right? It's energetic boundaries. Like, I mean, I had energetic boundaries that before I even knew, oh, here we go, over again. That's all right. I always had this boundary that if a job makes me cry, I leave. I'm out. Period.
Yeah. That's
now the only way they work is if it happens, you have to go.
Yeah.
So one day it happened, and I was like, okay. And I went to the owner that was running the line, and I said, here you go. He said, what's that? I said, my checks. He said, for what? I said, I'm leaving. He said, you're what? I said, I'm leaving. Tears.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you can't leave. I said, yeah, I can. Watch me. And I did. And I took the money, I took the whatever money I had with me, I took it with me because that was mine. Went and got my purse, took off my apron because it belonged to them, and I left. And I never looked back. And I'm sure the guy was still standing there the next morning with his jaw on the floor because he couldn't believe it, because they were accustomed to being the bulldozers, right? Like the steamrollers. Yep. I wasn't about to be steamrolled. So that is a benefit of being in the now, right? And understanding what you want the now to look like. So I love that. And it when you talk about that woman, right, like his neighbor, it reminds me of when I say, if you walk in somewhere loaded for bear, you're going to find one. Right? She was loaded for bear.
Loaded for bear. Yep.
And instead of, taking that and going out after the bear, she, for whatever reason, because I mean, I would have to guess that she would know who he was and what he was about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on some level, she knew she was going to the right place.
Right. She knew she could get help, but she thought his help was going to be, here, let me help you figure this out.
Yeah,
and
right.
Instead, the help was just like,
he let her off gas energetically, right?
Right.
He let her off gas all of that negative energy.
Yeah.
Which negative is out of alignment.
Yep.
And when she finally released the last of that negative energy, she was able to bring herself to the now. That's what it was.
Yep.
And I love the fact that he could influence that just by being in the room.
Just by being there. It was so cool.
Right? Because that's my thing, right? Emanating energy. You emanate energy. You have to be really mindful when you're that powerful, because he's that powerful.
He is.
And I'm pretty powerful too. I know a lot of people that are powerful. But you have to be really mindful about what you put out there. Right? Because if I walk in all tore up, loaded for bear, I'm going to get everybody, right? Everybody, I'm going to get everybody worked up. Everybody's either going to be upset with me or upset with who I'm upset with, or freaking out because they don't know what to do because they have never seen it before. You know, like
Right.
I am a bull in a china shop. I am fully aware of that, and I've worked hard on that. So I just love that. Like what I love is, yet again, I never read the book, but in this conversation, I've discovered that I already knew the power of now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's a fairly well-known concept, and
right.
that was my first exposure to it was when I read that book, and I was like,
Well, I mean, I arrived at it on my own, which
Yep.
is not to say that neither way is the wrong way, right? Like I just get to it, like I said, because I'm willing to listen. But I also get to it because I have this thing about looking at what's going on in my life and trying to understand how can I make that stop? How can I make that better? I don't like this.
Mhm.
Now what? Action. Aligned action is the key word. Anyway, look at that. 25 minutes and 34 seconds. So there we go. That's the end of the episode on Eckhart Tolle and consciousness. Listen, folks, we're trying to make this so you can listen to it, and it's not too long. But I think we should take just one more minute and each of us encourage you to do something that might help you get into the power of now. So for me, I would say one thing that always worked, and it's a concept all over the place. Count to 10 before you open your mouth.
Yep.
Right? Count
Mhm.
to 10. That is about bringing yourself to the now. So if you can't count to 10, count to 5, or pinch yourself, or do something that will make you jar out of whatever it is that's going on in your mind and give yourself an opportunity to act, a different way.
Yep. For me, one of the most powerful things is the question, how are you right now? I used to worry a lot, and I am around people that worry constantly, like, oh, if we don't do this, then this is going to happen, and we're not going to have enough money, and then everything's going to go terrible. And how are you
The fear
right?
of death. That's the
Yes.
fear of death. That really
Yes,
is the
it
fear of
is.
death. But anyway,
That's where it goes.
yeah,
The question is, how are you right now? And when you sit and you think and you say, right now, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm not hungry. I have a
Right
roof.
now, I'm fine. And then how about the next right now? Still fine. And the next
Yeah.
right now, still fine.
And as many right nows as you can sort of look forward and see, you're
Yep.
still fine, right?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
That's staying in the now.
How am I right now?
I'm fine.
And that's a really great question to yourself.
Yep. And the answer is almost always, I'm fine.
If you, right. I mean, you really are fine. The answer is correct.
Yes.
The answer fine is correct.
Yep.
I can see where people who worry or who are upset or angry would be like, well, I'm not fine. I'm mad, but you're still fine.
Yep. Correct.
Right? Like,
exact. Yes.
Right?
Spot on. That's exactly it.
You're still fine. So how, like, honestly, are you in danger of death at this moment? No, you're not. Then you're fine.
Right.
Right? Like, are you standing in the middle of the street about to get hit by a bus? No, you're fine.
You're fine. Yes. There's a t-shirt that says, but did it kill you?
I'm still walking.
Right? Perfect. Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. So that is this episode of Does It Resonate With You? We will see you in a few minutes for another short episode of Does It Resonate With You? And then don't miss out on Tarot Time. And don't forget that you can go to the YouTube channel now and click on the playlist for Tarot Time. And it's, there's not that many in there that we've recorded separately, but as time goes on, we're going to keep filling that in. And I think that's a really great way for you to learn tarot.
Yep.
And to connect with, what the meanings of the cards are. So that is it for this episode of Does It Resonate With You? And we'll see you in a little bit for another one. Thank you so much. Oh, no, not that one. Oops. Wrong button, folks. You can't make this stuff up. Here we go.